The very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier podcast, where I will sit down and converse with the superstars, the overachievers, the masters of our craft. Each episode will be a deep dive into their personal philosophies, their habits, the tools they use, and the secrets to not only their success, but overcoming failure as well.
First, find somebody you can mimic, then find somebody you can stand, and then try to focus on one style until you master that style.
So if you say I can't do something, well, you're absolutely right. But if you say you're going to, you're absolutely right with that too.
People say that you shouldn't define yourself by your work. That is not true.
You know what Dave Farley does when he's, lucky enough to be at the World Equestrian Games? I'm watching other people work.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that enough.
This podcast is for all of you out there who share my passion for the job and the desire to always improve. These interviews will put you in touch with the inner workings of the role models we all want to emulate. So let's get to it.
There's only so many hours in a day, and it's a matter of what you do with them.
Welcome, everyone. A little shopkeeping before we start. As I announced last time, Gregorys Textbook of Farrier is now available in audio. I've had a few people reach out about what format this comes in, and to be honest, at the time I didn't know. So I downloaded a copy myself, and now I can report back. For those of you who already know how this process works, just hit the skip button a few times and you'll get to the introduction for the episode. First, if you already have a hard copy of the written textbook, take a picture of yourself reading it and send it to Chris Gregory. You can do this online through his Facebook. Just do it in Facebook Messenger, and then he will give you a discount code that you can use later. Now, go to the school's website at heartlandhorseshoeing.com, and at the top left corner of the home page, there are 3 horizontal lines. Click on them, and in the menu that pops up, choose Shop. You will see at the very top Cody's tools, and do yourself a favor, click on that and buy yourself a set or 2 of his tongs. The jaws on those things are something else. Anyway, as you scroll past those tools and get almost to the bottom of the page, you'll see Gregorys Textbook of Farrier. Click on that, and then click on Options. Then choose either Audiobook and Textbook or Audiobook only. Then click on Purchase, and then View Cart. Your chosen option should be listed at the top of the screen, and you click on the Checkout button. Then you will be asked to fill out all of your details, and then click on Continue to Payment. The next screen is where those who have sent Chris the picture of themselves reading the book can input the discount code they received from Chris. Enter your payment info, click Pay Now, and then a link to your copy of the audiobook will show up in your email inbox. The platform is AweSounds, and you can either stream the book online, or there is also a listen offline option, where they put it in podcast format in either Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts. And there it is divided up. Each chapter is basically a podcast episode. I hope this information helps. And if you're still struggling with it, please feel free to reach out on Facebook, and I will do my best to be your online tech support. Okay, you can stop hitting the skip button. Back to our episode. Today I'm speaking with Jason RoTramel CJF ASF. If you have been to a farrier competition in the US, you have probably noticed a gentleman with a beard of epic proportions, the coolest hat in the crowd, and a cell phone on a tripod. This would be Jason, and if you nudge someone and ask who that character in the great hat is, they will usually say, "Oh, that's Jason. He's the Kahn Forge guy." As you will hear, Jason played a big role in helping to rebrand the relatively unknown company from China selling horseshoes, nails, and tools to the Kahn Forge name we know today. While Jason isn't a partner in Kahn, he is definitely a brand ambassador who is passionate about the product, and that passion shows in this conversation. He also has his side project, Vagabond Forge, so we discuss what he's been up to there and where he wants to head as well. Anyway, I had a lot of fun with Jason in this interview. He even turned the tables on me a couple times and asked me some questions. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. I'm sitting here today at the AFA convention with Jason RoTramel, CJF,
and ASF.
CJF and ASF. I've met Jason several times over the years going to the certification course at Chris's, and on the weekend when the judges and all the people from surrounding areas come in to do their testing, you're always there as a mentor to somebody. It's funny. I've watched that happen so many times.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he always has the best hat in the crowd. So I knew I had to talk to this gentleman.
I was trying to figure out why you were talking to me. It must be because I'm the biggest character in the room. Because
after talking with you several times, it's come clear we're working on similar projects.
Yeah,
and we're just trying to get people's stories out there. And I really appreciate that you're doing the same thing, and it's kind of cool to be able to swap stories and what we've learned through the process as we've gone too.
yeah, it's been kind of fun getting together and getting a chance to get to know you a little bit, because you're kind of already been doing what I was doing. Because I heard about your podcast from Chris Gregory.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I first was kind of starting to actually talk about what had been on my mind.
Right.
And I said Chris, but I meant Cody. And Cody's like, you need to check out Brian. And so I kind of got started listening to it that way.
Oh,
and
cool.
so that kind of gave me something to work off of and be like, okay, here's somebody that's working a framework,
Mhm.
and so that I could finish like putting together my own idea. So it's been pretty cool watching everybody that is doing anything social media wise kind of do their own little thing, and all the little things are kind of coming to life.
Yeah, for sure. That technology, as it's become more accessible to us, and some of us have come from backgrounds where we can either we had some background in it, or we have that spirit, that entrepreneurial, maybe even spirit of learning it and giving it a go. But I think it's really cool that now we've come out of the dark ages where farriers didn't talk and didn't share stuff, to where that has become more and more of a thing. And then now there are all these little nuanced stories that you don't hear or might not read in a magazine article that you can get through these other mediums that we just didn't have access to.
Yeah. And, I kind of started out doing this thing, like just trying to make kind of an archive, you know what I mean? And then it kind of got to my creative side, and that's how it kind of took off for me. But just kind of back to your statement, like why I like to work the pre-certs and stuff all the time. Like even the media thing kind of goes back to that, is I come up in this business at a time when a guy would quit working if you walked up on him.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's sharing any information, and everybody has that kind of a story. So my real goal with the thing is just for it to be a little easier for the people coming in behind me. Leave a cleaner trail.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so there's not a better way to do that. I don't think Chad Chance tapped it with Hoofwatch.
Yeah. No
Right?
kidding.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of was really our industry pioneer in sharing this thing. And I remember watching the Chad Chance videos and watching Craig Turnka, watch his videos kind of come along and going, man, we need some more of this. And so I just kind of picked up a phone and started trying to figure it out,
Yep.
But it's about just sharing the knowledge. And I think we're at a time right now to where people want to do that, and they want to be a part of sharing instead of, just find it and keep it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that also comes from a time Jeremy McGovern and I were just having this conversation. He said, like, when you talk to people who were shoeing in the early days of the automobile and that, like, horses plummeted, their business plummeted. So then the next generation was taught by those guys, and everybody just was protective. And now, as horses have sort of made their resurgence, which I didn't really think of in that large of a context, now it's not so much that if you share knowledge with another guy that you're not going to be able to eat tomorrow, he's going to take all your business and you're done, right? Like, there's enough work out there. And in some ways, I think right now we might even be at a shortage of farriers. I hate to say that and then have that go wrong.
So don't say that, man. Like, I'm thinking my retirement of selling horseshoes.
But yeah, just that hopefully we can encourage through mediums like this as well, encourage new people to get into it. I'm sure you have. I've heard from a lot of people who are thinking about going to school, and this is sort of their introduction to it. Like what the lifestyle is going to be. And
well, I've dang sure seen that, with the students that come through 5-star. Like, they have no idea that they hit the pool at the deep end.
Yeah.
And like, they come through and it's just part of the culture.
Yeah.
Because that whole 5-star culture, you got Mike and Matt and Tom Trosen and just everybody that comes and goes in that shop. And like, this is their first introduction into the world. Is you come, you go to continuing education, you go to convention, and you go to contests, and this is just how it's done. I think with that becoming more and more popular, that there's a generation of farriers that are realizing we're actually in the relationship business.
Yeah.
And if somebody's end goal is, I like horses, and I do this because I like to be around horses. And when they can mix that with, I like to be around people
who like horses.
Yeah. And both of those are a skill set that can be developed.
Yes.
And when it comes right down to it, if you level the playing field at CF, okay, let's just use that for an easy line. If you level the playing field right there, it really comes down to, does this horse owner feel good about their experience when you leave? Right?
Yep.
I learned that the hard way, right? Because I thought it was enough to be good, right?
Yeah.
So I set out to be a great farrier. I want to learn these things. I want to do therapeutic stuff and all these things I wanted to be, because that's the guys in my area. Those were the guys that got respect.
Right.
And those were the guys getting paid.
Yeah.
We're all doing this to get paid. And it took the better part of my career to realize this is a personality contest, right? Like, it's not it's not really a skill contest.
Right.
And so if you just realize and ground my business, the students and myself, if we ground our business in those two things, why we started in the first place, because we like horses and we like hanging out with horse people. If we can keep a hold of that, then the education part of it just kind of fills in the back, right?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because I feel like there was, or there probably still is, a subset of those really good and highly skilled farriers who learned everything they could about the trade itself, but they really despised the people who didn't learn that skill set, but were really good with the personality end of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's pretty obvious. It's been a bit of a fissure.
Well, those two groups really camp up, don't they?
Yeah.
That's the big dividing line of the camp. In a lot of ways, they camp up that way. But, I really think that a lot of that's fading.
Yeah. I think.
And it might be the bubble I live in, right? Because
the people you're surrounded by,
right,
they have both.
Yeah.
And have worked very hard to accumulate both.
Yeah. And skills. I'm sure, and I'm aware in the industry that I live in a bubble, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very keen to manage my bubble.
Right.
So I don't really know what it's like out there, but that's kind of my perception, is that there's this layer that realizes that it's both.
Yes. I think part of my goal, and I'm sure yours is probably similar, is also trying to get those two camps together so that they can work on both sets. And by leading by example, by having those people out there and being able to see their story and how that has helped their career, the fact that they have the personality and the skill set, because it's a struggle to sometimes, like, you'll meet people of one set or the other, and you can't talk about the other half of it without animosity. And
it's like trying to talk politics.
Yes, exactly.
In the United States right now.
They just close right down.
If you want to have a good time, just don't bring it up, right? Because
exactly.
We can't manage anything that might be a difference of opinion.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, people want to polarize.
Yes. And I think with the two big conventions that you guys have down here, it's interesting where I think before they were more of a separate thing, but just from the people I've spoken to here, I think you're getting people who are going to both now, or a lot more that are going to both.
I sure see a lot.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if that's my bubble.
Right.
But the cool thing about it, in the growing, involved crowd, and the people that want to engage, the cool thing about it is that they have options now, and that things have diversified out so much. You got the WCB, you've got the summit, you've got your local competitions, you got the national stuff, right? You've got all the little clinics that meet the little cultures. There's somewhere to plug in and connect. And so doing the Kahn Forge thing really kind of moved me in and out of all of that.
Right.
And so I really like playing the role of ambassador and trying to bring people together. It's like, man, if you guys could just get together and hang out, that would be cool.
Yeah.
And that's what these events do for us, right? They give us a chance to break isolation, because isolation sucks. But isolation's a two-way street. Like, you can put it out there and so we can hang out on the outside and be isolated, or we can go plug in.
Yeah.
And get involved.
For sure.
And so the more of those options, like, people are just, with social media, it's just becoming the thing to do. Go to the events, connect with your friends, get to know new people.
Yeah, and meet all those people that you know them by the profile picture, and that's it.
Doesn't that change everything?
Oh, yeah.
Though, right? Like, when you get to meet them in flesh and blood, it just changes everything.
For sure. That segues quite nicely into how you got involved with Kahn in the first place. We had that conversation when we talked about a month ago down at the Gregorys. So how did that connection first happen for you?
Yeah, I've tried to figure out how to lend this story some brevity over the years. Brevity is not my superpower.
Yeah, that's all right.
So I'm going to tell you the whole story and let you decide what stays in.
Yeah.
How about that, right?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't get involved until really late in my career. Like, I just read my certification certificate, and I think I got my CF in 2013.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I forget the important details like that, but it was either 12 or 13.
Okay.
Right. So I'm kind of late to the party, and I spent all those first years on the outside looking in.
And how long have you been shoeing?
I started shoeing in 94 was when I kind of started trimming. I'm trying to play cowboy, I'm out there hacking away at my grandpa's horses, but that's where it started.
Right. Yeah.
And I've got one of those stories. When I got here, when I kind of came and got involved, there was this initial, this is awesome. And then there was kind of a wave of disappointment, I guess, And so I'm looking around at the school and I'm going, dadgum, there's only like 2 grades of tools available to these students. Right?
Yeah.
So let's start there. So looking around school down at Dusty's, I'd hung out there for a little while, and I'm like, the tools that these guys are buying that are affordable are inhibiting their learning.
Right.
And so I'm trying to find a place where I fit in to fill a void at 5-star. The tool thing, I just kind of gravitated towards that. So I worked with it. And I was talking to Dusty about the tools and went to trying to figure out how to help the students tweak their tools to get more out of them and just kind of get things dialed in. Because anything you buy really should be dialed in to you.
Right.
And so...
And that's a whole art and learning curve in itself.
Yeah. And so I started doing that with the students, and I'm like, man, there's got to be an easier place to start. So I talked to Dusty about it, and he's like, well, I agree, but how many of these people coming to school aren't going to be a farrier in 5 years? And it just seems a little predatory to have them go buy a bunch of high-end tools just for them to end up in a bucket.
Right.
But there just wasn't a mid-game, not that I felt like fit the bill. So I went looking. And it was, I believe it was my first time at Summit when I ran into Jason Yang. But he was at table, it was him and I think maybe his wife. I can't remember too far back. But they just kind of had a basic table, just a white table with a tablecloth, and they had put some tools out and they had some shoes. And I could see from a distance that some thought went into the tools. So I went over to talk to him. And at that time, he was still kind of at the beginning stages of learning to speak English. And so it took a little bit of time. I didn't care. It's not my first time trying to get to know somebody that English wasn't their first language. So I just sat down and we worked through it and talked. And there was so much attention to detail in the tools. And there was so much effort put into the tools. It's like, if the designs are functional, I want to try them out. And if they're durable, I want to try them out.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked. And after that first time us getting to know each other, the next time I saw him, I believe he sent me with a whole set of tools. And I mean, we put them through a licking. I was not nice to those tools. I cut through every nail I could. Like I put them through it. And then when I was done with it, I dropped them off at the school for 6 months and let the students beat on them.
And there is no test like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And so if you can student proof it and figure out how to get students, to be successful with it,
yeah,
like now that's winning right there. Anyway, we just kind of went back and forth like that. I got Dusty involved on the feedback, and he and I kind of worked closely with the feedback there, and we kind of worked our way through that. And I was just trying to help him out. Like, I wasn't looking to get involved. It's a cool dude that's supplying what I felt like there was a need for.
Right, yeah.
I didn't have much favor for his shoe designs at the time, and we talked about that. So this kind of went on for a couple of years, I think. And then he hit me up about working with him, partnering up with him and repping with him and helping him. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm not your guy. It's like, listen, I say stupid crap. I got the personality of a porcupine. My give a crap about what people think is pretty low.
Yeah. And
I'm like, man, I'm not your guy. And I'm like, you need to find somebody that's like somebody and have them help you, because I really don't know. And he insisted. And so I'm like, well, let me think about it. And my daughter and I were kind of planning a walkabout in the UK. So I'm like, I'm going to take this trip with my daughter. I'm going to focus on that first. And when I get back from that, I'll give you an answer. And when I thought about it the whole time we were gone, I've outlined some stuff and like how, if I was going to do this, where the basics, where I thought it would go. And when I got back, I called him up and we were kind of talking about it. And he was still living in China at the time. And I was on this night owl kick. So we would do everything between like 9 and 10 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And so I called him up and I'm like, all right, here's what I've got. This is what I think about the deal. So I think there's a lot of potential. I think you're onto something and I'm interested, but like, we got to rebrand the whole thing. The name is never going to stick, because he was using his first and last name. It's all a derivative of his name. Anyway, it just wasn't going to stick.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of rapped back and forth. He's like, well, what would you call it? I'm like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just telling you what you need to change.
I'm like, this name is not going to stick. It's not catchy. People don't like saying it.
Right.
Because anytime anybody would talk about it with me, it was always a stumble over what's the brand name, right? It was a stumble. Well, that's the worst nightmare.
That's a flag right there, yeah.
Right. So we sitting there and we're kind of rapping back and forth. And I'm like, the last thing we want to do, like, we don't want to do this. So let's start there. We don't want to name it something red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And then produce it in China.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever we do, we got to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's Chinese factory, Chinese steel, Chinese workers. Like, we got to be honest. And so we're kicking it around. Like, parts of the story you probably shouldn't tell. And I'm going,
the list of suggestions.
Yeah. And this idea occurred to me, Kahn Forge. And I'm like, man, what about Kahn Forge? Because it's like, listen, if we're going to be Chinese, so that's where it went. So it went from, let's be honest about what we are, to, we're a Chinese company. So like, how do we just be the most baddest ass Chinese thing we can think of, right? So that's where my mind's going while he and I are rapping back and forth. And then the thought, I'm like, what is the most baddest ass Chinese thing that American rednecks and blue collar workers are going to understand, right? And I'm like, Genghis Khan, bro. Like, and I'm like, Kahn Forge, that's the name. And Jason's like, yeah, but he's not Chinese. I'm like, yeah, but these knuckle draggers don't know that, man. You know that, I know that, but nobody else knows that. So we kicked it around, and then from there, it's kind of history from there. I mean, we just started grinding it out. It was just me and him, and yeah, he had the factory behind him, but as far as like on boots on the ground trying to pull this thing off, right?
Yeah.
And we just slugged it out till the slugging was done, and it ain't even close to over, because we were kind of climbing and on the rise real good coming into COVID, and then COVID changed everybody's life, right?
Yeah. No kidding. well, we just had a conversation in the lobby just about the supply issues and getting stuff over and and keeping up with demand because the whole Farrier world has exploded and in demand.
And brand loyalty is only as good as your ability to deliver.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're Farriers. We make a horseshoe out of a truck axle if we have to, you know, to get the bills paid. So when it comes right down to it, every horse that gets shod is a lost sale when you can't deliver horseshoe products, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And everybody's in the same boat, right? I mean, we're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because you do get those people who are, like, I imagine there is a bit of that also country loyalty. Like you just said, if you said that it was a red, white, and blue company and then it was made in China, then that will be an issue. That dishonesty is going to cause a problem. But at the same time, a lot of the other companies, when you see where that box of shoes was made, it isn't Europe, it isn't the US, it's somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And, you know, nationalism is a thing, right?
Yeah.
It should be.
Yeah.
Right? And patriotism is a thing.
Yeah.
It should be. But the American dream is also a thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's a thing that's still very alive for a lot of the world. Yeah, I don't like to get too distracted by what everybody else is doing. I'm kind of a go my own way guy. I mean, it's a thing, and you have to allow for that. You have to allow for the patriotism. And so that's why, like, how that works, right? How that works where you can be proud of who you are and what you are is when everybody's free to do it.
Yeah.
Right? All the talk about the Chinese company, you know, let's just, like for me, let's just kick that white elephant in the room and see what happens, you know, like being a Chinese company, it's been an uphill slug.
Yeah.
You know, especially considering the political climate of the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 8, how far?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, do we want to go all the way back to Vietnam while we're at it? I mean, how far do we want to do it? We just try to press forward with integrity and let everybody do their thing.
Yeah. Right.
While we do our thing.
And I think that's why you're the perfect man for the job, because you just, like you said, your give a damn levels are really low. So it just allows you to say, hey, listen, I'm not going to try to skirt around this or beat around the bush. This is what we're doing. This is where we're coming from, and take it or leave it.
And the more I got to know Jason, the more convicted I got, right? Because at first, it was just something I was doing because it was fun. Right? It was there. It was an opportunity. It was available. It worked in parallel with my dream of Vagabond Forge. And so they were working together. Well, then as opposition stacked up against Jason Yang, and this guy becomes like an extended piece of my family. Well, now I'm on a crusade. Yeah. You know, because you're not coming after me. You're coming after one of mine.
Right.
He came here. He lived here. He bought a house here. You know, Kahn Forge is incorporated in the United States. Like, he's living the American dream. His kids are going to school here, learning our culture. You know, and I don't know if he's looking for permanent migration. We don't talk about that. But either way, there's this great overlap where this Chinese business owner moved here and is getting to know us on the ground, right?
Yeah, right.
And he's using those resources to make life better for his people back home. Well, man, that's cool. Right? Like, he didn't just come here to make money. Like, when I went over there and I got to know him and got to know his people and see how he ran his thing on the ground, I was sold. Like, this guy's a good dude.
Okay. Yeah. And that's the other concern that I think a lot of people tend to have when they think of stuff manufactured in China or another foreign country that they're not aware of, because all you hear are the stories of just a working class that is being taken advantage of, right? Like, where their lives aren't getting better.
Well, yeah, and without getting drug into the weeds on that, you know, it's not like we don't exploit our poor, right, in the United States, right? Like, so there's definitely a ceiling there. The excuse I like to give China is they're still an emerging country. Like, there's still a lot of people living in villages in China, and they like it that way. You know what I mean? Like, we pretend to think that everybody wants asphalt and internet, and it's just not true. Right? And then, yes, there is a lot that goes along with an emerging industrial economy of that size. I mean, look at what we did, right? Like,
to get Here, yeah.
And I mean the royal we, like North America. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
Canada wasn't a lot better back
we
in the
were
day.
gonna
Like,
say no.
yeah, people are looking to exploit someone else. Like that's just dog
That's
eat dog, a
the
survival of
history
the
has
fittest, you know?
been,
Yeah. But when you get to know somebody on a personal level and you put all the politics aside and you get to see somebody in their eyes and they become just a good person trying to do their thing,
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't come down to that.
Yeah.
You know, when at the end of the day, we're all a bunch of people trying to live together on a shrinking rock.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Shrinking by the day. Explain some more about Vagabond Forge. How did that come about for you?
It's an evolving dream. I felt like such an outsider at the beginning of my career, right? I spent a lot of time in isolation and it's very much of that self-induced, right? And when I got involved with Dusty, I got to kind of see the school side of things. And at the very beginning, I'm like, man, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
To have a school in Kansas, you know, and do something a little more homegrown would be super cool. I started college to become a school teacher.
Oh, really?
I wanted to teach science and history.
No way.
Yeah. At that time, I wasn't doing a very good job interacting with civilians. And I did my first set of parent-teacher conferences. I realized this is not for me.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I just want, like, come on, man. I'm sitting here with one of the best teachers in the state, watching parents berate this dude because Johnny's failing. And I just want to be like, choke yourself. Come over here and choke yourself. You know, Johnny isn't failing because this dude's a bad teacher. Johnny's failing because you're a bad parent.
Yeah, right.
You don't sit down and do homework with Johnny. And I'm like, man, I am never going to survive in this world. And I was working as a para at that time as part of my education program. And so I had like 3 semesters as a para. And so then I just kind of became a wandering generality, as Chad Chance says. And I went corporate job, blah, blah, blah. But just kind of coming back, that educator part of me, right? Like I liked the training part in the Marine Corps. I liked educating. I liked sharing knowledge. It didn't take very long hanging out with Dusty Franklin to realize why owning a school doesn't look good. Like that's a nightmare. Like watching what he goes through running that school, just all of it, right? Everything from dealing with the VA to the state and licensing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
all those moving parts before you even get to the students, right? I am not equipped for any of that. I don't have the resources to buy the equipment.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, well, this school thing ain't going to work out. And so just kind of trying to re-evolve that educating farriers, you know, sharing what I've learned idea and watching Chad Chance come up and going, man, I think I could make videos.
Mm-hmm.
I started taking video for myself. You know, I don't read very well. I learn everything the hard way. And so when I would go to clinics, as soon as they put a camera in a phone, I was like, win.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was the guy in school with a tape recorder. So I could go back through all of that stuff, right?
Okay.
If I'm reading to truly comprehend, the best thing I can do is read it out loud to myself and
Right.
then listen to it while I read it.
Right.
Overcoming my own challenges learning, it's kind of like I've got this big old bank of videos. And I started, when I was going back and watching those, I'd farm through them and I didn't mind the minutia. I just was like, man, I think I'm on to something here. I'm going to all these cool places, seeing all these great guys, meeting industry legends,
Mm-hmm.
all these really cool people that went before me. And I'm like, Chad Chance did it. I think I can do it. And so I just started shooting everywhere I went. Well, then Facebook put that Facebook Live thing on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that solved my problems, right? Like, I don't have to figure out how to be an editor.
Yeah. It's just there. Yeah.
And then I realized even that crap had an expiration date. The history buff in me goes, man, we deserve an archive without an expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
We're really kind of poorly documented in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I did a little stint while I was trying to find myself as a living history reenactor. They call it a living history interpreter. And so I parlayed my education background and all that into a farm manager position on a living history farm.
Oh, cool.
And so that became one of the discussions, was how well is the blacksmith culture documented through time? And it's documented like crap because we didn't take the time to document ourselves.
Yeah. Well, even as you said there, most of us are not the type to sit and write and do the academic side of it that would record it, right?
Yeah.
Because that was the only way you could really keep that history at the time.
People like to say history is written by the winner, but it's not. History is written by the people that take the time to write it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so not realizing that I had a lot to learn before I was going to get to my big picture dream, I just started building an archive. And in building my archive, I realized I needed to learn photography. That like, don't shoot into the sun. Like, why is that a thing, man? Why can't the smartphone just filter out the sun? I don't understand. But all my IT guys have always called me the end user from hell, because I remember when you had a cell phone and a Palm Pilot, and I'm going, what the heck? Like, why can't we mix these two? I've broken them both open. The parts are small. We can put all this in one case, and then boom, here it is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had a lot to learn about photography. I had a lot to learn about timing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Where the dream has kind of evolved, I've got all the small goals on the way to the big goal.
Right.
Not all of them by any stretch, but I've got some steps mapped out. And one of them is to heighten connection by using social media. Take all these people, places, and things that I think are cool and put out some social media stuff that helps the lurkers find a connecting place.
Mm-hmm.
So if they see somebody that I've pointed a camera at that they feel like they can connect with, then I've won on social media side of things, right?
Yeah.
And then it adds a little bit more substance to people's online personas, right? Because like, we're huge on Facebook and we're all Facebook heroes. But in the videos and the small interviews and the impromptu things, I feel like it just kind of gets into the fabric of who people are a little bit better. So the social media thing's all designed about making connections. The YouTube channel is kind of evolving into something that I would like to highlight the Farrier lifestyle with.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much education focused per se, like that stuff's getting done. All the fun we have, right? Like, wouldn't it be cool to have a follow me drone behind Robert Jukes as he's mountain biking in Colorado?
Yeah,
right? Like,
right.
that would be cool.
Yeah.
And now you got a little insight into Robert Jukes, or follow Justin Frank around on a snowmobile, or Tom Peterson on a snowmobile, and make a video out of it and post it. Because most of these guys are way too humble to even do self-promotion.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Let alone share that kind of insight or put a camera on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's a whole nother thing. But so use the YouTube channel just to document the party.
Yeah.
The good times, because this is a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And then this whole thing ends in a documentary that I am fantasizing about in my mind, because I have no idea how to make a documentary. But in my head, cloud big dream would be to make a documentary for Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens between here and there. A lot of things can change in a year, as we found out in 2020. But
no kidding. Yeah.
But that's kind of the big picture of what I think Vagabond Forge is.
That's awesome. And you also have taken certain people where they have a story and you've seen it develop, and then you've had a camera there to watch that story develop, like people competing, people chasing their certifications, right?
Yeah, the most recent phases of Dusty Franklin, right? Like, because his whole thing's progressed. Like, what he's teaching and what he's talking about now is not the same.
Yeah.
Right? And then you get those students, right? Like Juan, that came to the school, and I got footage on him, in and out since he was a student. Now, all that crap's really poorly organized. So shooting that stuff going forward is going to be easier, but going back and digging it out's a little bit hard, because I was just like, running and gunning.
Yeah.
But like Juan, Patrick Dutton, he was on the Kahn Forge team when we fielded a team for the Kentucky Classic, for the Horseshoe Classic.
Right.
And so I've got footage on him and footage on Mackenzie, and so I got this really cool archive of footage on your everyday people that from one angle, you're like, oh, they just woke up a superstar. But no, man, I got footage on the struggle.
Yeah, right.
Right? Lori McBride's one of my favorites. Like, I love to video Lori, and she is the world's worst to try to shoot. But like, she has such a great work-life balance, Lori McBride, right? And like, she puts the feminine in Farrier. Because she's killing it. She's a super mom. She's got a good shoeing career. she's managed to work her way up the ranks and competing. And like you watched her compete yesterday, man, she's got a system and she's working it. It was a thing of beauty to watch. People like that are the lifeblood of keeping this whole thing moving forward. They're just not going to hit the limelight the same way your big A-listers, right? Your superstars that as manufacturers, we tend to gravitate to.
Right.
Right? Because we want to hitch our wagon to their work.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I just early on kind of decided that wasn't my way. I wanted to hitch my wagon to the salt of the earth. You know, the Laurie McBrides that are out there living it and killing it. Farrier is just a segment of what they are.
Yeah.
Not what they are. Because that's intense, right? Like you meet them people that are like, I'm a farrier. I'm like, that's intense. That's a lot to take in.
Especially if you don't know where it came from.
Yeah. It's like, okay, can we talk about something else? It's cool, you know? And those guys are good too. Like that level of hunger, you don't end up with Grant Moon and Stephen Bean and Craig Turnka and Dusty Franklin without that obsessive level champion mentality that drives those guys. You know, I'm just not driven that way. And I like to point the camera at people that aren't getting a camera pointed at them.
Yeah, no, it's really cool what you're up to. So you said that when you started, you were in this sort of self-isolation mode. What changed that? Was there one catalytic moment that changed it all for you, or was it a slow progression into the bubble you're in now?
No, man, it was a moment.
Really?
Yeah, it was a moment in time for sure. I mean, hang on a minute. Let me strip down to my Dusty Franklin underwear and put my Dusty Franklin cape on, you know. But Dusty, you know, was the guy that made the connection, Dusty and Mike Nail. Mike Nail and I had an overlap in an apprenticeship we were both working.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of one of those perpetual student kind of guys, you know. I consider myself working in apprenticeship now.
Yeah.
You know, and so.
Never stops.
But I'd kind of signed on for this every other week deal with John Muldoon, and Mike Nail was doing the off week.
Okay.
So we had that overlap. Other than that, I'd just kind of run into 20-something Dusty over the years, and 20-something Dusty and 20-something Jason didn't mix the best.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, like, Dusty was just kind of this dude that was over there doing his AFA thing. And why do I need a piece of paper telling me how to shoe a horse? You know, I had all these old timers show me everything I needed to know. And by God, my horses are sound. And, you know, and so, you know, all that. And then I was getting towards the end of my apprenticeship with John, and it kind of wiped out my savings and built a new rig, built a trailer, and bought a bunch of inventory for said trailer, and just borrowed a bunch of money to get that professional look. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
You know, and being prepared. You know, I mean, I had two of everything, man. If Grand Circuit made it, it was on my truck. You know, all of the nuts and bolts and bells and whistles and egg bars and all that stuff, man. I had a trailer full of that stuff. And a generator and torches and a welder, and why would I build a heart bar when I can fabricate one, you know? And like I could barely punch a good nail hole, let's be honest, right? And so I was very much in that camp. And my rig got stolen. Like my whole plan is gone. I'm unemployed, dude. Like everything's gone. Credit cards maxed out. I owe the bank money. I've been working half time for a year to serve this clinic apprenticeship because I was going to be a therapeutic horseshoer. Now remember that I'm going to be the fixed lame horses hero at this point in my career. God, I was such a tool. But anyway, so yeah, rig's gone. And I get a call out of the blue. Then it was horseshoes.com was kind of the online world. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
So I got onto Horseshoes and posted that, well, shit. You know what? I posted while I'm waiting on the cop because I'm sitting at the hotel waiting on the cop to show up. And I got to explain to this cop why there's 2 pistols and all the ammunition anybody needs in a pickup truck that just left. You know, yeah, I'm that guy. But Dusty calls me up, you know, because I don't know how it got back to him. Come to find out later, Mike had seen the post when he was out with John, and Mike told Dusty, blah, blah, blah. But the moment was like Dusty Franklin called me up and let me talk. And then he says, I've got an anvil and a forge you can borrow until you don't need them anymore. And if you learn to use them, you'll never be here again. And I went home and started building inventory. Like, I didn't have a choice. I couldn't buy shoes. You know, I got some stuff in the mail. Like there was a bunch of cool people on horseshoes. And so like a lot of those guys sent me some stuff. So I got a little seed, you know, startup.
Right.
But I took the extra cash I had, instead of buying inventory, I went down. So we got a salvage steel yard nearby. And I went down, I could buy scrap steel cheap. And so since it's an industrial area, I was buying 3/8, 3/4 really cheap.
Cool.
So I got less than $1 a shoe in these things and a whole lot of training. And I don't know how long it was. Like we're totally living with the in-laws at this point. This is one of those moments where when people tell me why they can't practice or learn to make handmaids, I just smile and nod because I'm living in a residential area, living in the in-laws basement, you know, and I would back in and set up that forge and anvil and stand there and make my inventory for tomorrow. And let me tell you, I hung a lot of crap just trying to get through that first year.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, you know, of course I started using keg shoes again, but the seed had been planted. Like I'd realized what was happening, like this handmade shoe deal and like how my feet were changing and something's happening. And so I called up Dusty and I'm like, hey, can we get together? And he's like, well, it just so happens I'm going to be at the Kansas clinic. And so I'm like, dude, I'm there. So I called up the Kansas Association, somehow made those connections to show up at the Kansas clinic. And Dusty, you know, we made 3/8 by 1 hinds that night and started talking about shape and fitting and the coffin bone and fit by build your inside line, not your outside line. And like, that was just, that Kansas clinic was just one of those highlight moments that really started it all for me.
Cool.
Yeah, it was great. And right there, like if the Kansas Association wasn't there to put on that clinic, you know, bop, 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 bop.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes from there. So
when you were originally just building your own inventory, the skill set that you were playing from, where did you learn those skills?
I tried to get it off the internet, dude.
Yeah.
Like nothing was available, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I finally signed up. Like I'd get all those little teaser trailers that like Chad Chance was putting out. And I'm dusting off some cobwebs here. I've had a lot of concussions because I've got a big mouth. And so like, I don't remember the details real well. But you know, like I stumbled on Chad's videos and then you had to sign up for Hoof Watch. And I'm going, well, shit, you know, $5 a month is $5 a month right now, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of got to picking through the Hoof Watch videos. And I can't tell you how many times I watched that Calgary Stampede video where like, bunch of guys are building heart bars and Chad kind of pops in and out on that thing. And I learned a lot from just studying that video and watching those competition videos. I'd be like, okay, what are these guys doing? I'm watching for how do they punch a nail hole? Oh, how do they fuller? You know, how do you shape that before you put it around? And I just really dissected. I mean, I gobbled up. I mean, people still do it, but like it was like Farrier porn when Farrier stuff started showing up on the internet, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And my wife's like, God, can't you just look at porn like a normal husband, you know? And so I just devoured it, you know, but there was so little available then.
Right.
And that was kind of the spark too that drove me. And because I live in my little bubble and I don't really watch what other people are doing, you know, there was a bunch of people social media wise kind of spontaneously emerging out of that first surge.
Yeah, that's really neat. See, I had no idea this conversation was going to go with there. Like
yeah. I mean, for our part of the deal, you know, learning to let that conversation be conversation and be organic. Like that's when you get the best stuff in it.
Yeah. It's amazing how many times I've pressed stop on the record button. And then we'll have a chat and afterwards, the guest and I'm like, the record button should still be on here. Like there's so much more that just happened after we're like, okay, well, that was good.
Yeah. I've learned to just let it roll.
Yeah.
And I mean, even like in my shirts, this is a prototype hoodie and I've got to do some changes, but I just put on the back of my shirts, assume I'm live. I recorded it all, man. I'm going to get it all. I mean, and like, I'm sitting here and everybody else is taking in the 2-man last night because it's the 50th, right?
Yeah.
Last night was the night to have a camera on every anvil. The 2-man team ups that were happening last night for the 50th, man, talk about a convention of legends. Yeah. You know, you had an entire, like a generation of legends and a generation of legends in the making last night in the 2-man.
All together. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I'm just sitting here looking around going,
Where do
I point a camera? You know? And so I picked my horses and I'll back them, but it would have been cool to have a camera on every anvil.
Yeah.
Like that was a big part of my first dream is I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to rig up an on-site production to place a camera on every anvil. So all I have to do is do maintenance and do the link up.
Right.
And that got logistically heavy.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, and probably a nightmare just what I mean, I knocked your setup over yesterday. I could just imagine with all those people wandering around and
you know, like that's the beauty in not buying cool stuff.
yeah.
You know, like if like
you don't have to buy replacement cool stuff.
yeah, and I can set it and forget it and let things be organic and capture a moment, you know, because I can tell when I break a competitor's bubble, right, with the camera.
Right.
You know, I can tell. And some competitors and clinicians too, right? As soon as that camera takes on an identity, it's there and it became part of the go. Now, some people are impervious to it, but very few, because as soon as you make that connection through the camera with a competitor, they either come to the table and put on a show and it just added something.
Right.
And that feels good when you do that. But when you break somebody's bubble and they throw a hammer across the shop, that doesn't feel as good. You know, so being conscientious of that is real important. And whereas I don't get like this, to call anything I shoot cinematic is ridiculous, but you get a cool cinematography when I'm running around like the way I'm going to shoot the live shooting today. Like I really get into the live shooting. And so there'll be multiple angles and multiple shots and it's a big nightmare to edit together. But honestly, the videos I like the best are the ones where I just set a camera off the horn and get away from it. And you watch someone get in the zone uninterrupted. Right.
Yeah.
And then when you come on a team that's just in it to win it. Sawyer Spradling and Daniel Jones. Like I picked my horse at the first round of team trials. I didn't know. I didn't do any homework going into that. I didn't like who's favored to win or any of that, you know. I just happened to drop a camera on them and Brian Buckner. But I just dropped a camera in those two spots because Buckner's cool. He was my tester when I passed my CF. So I'm like, I'm getting that.
Yeah.
And then the synergy between those two, you know, Daniel Jones and Sawyer Spradling, like you could just tell they had done the work. Like they could work without communicating. They knew. And like that was a thing of beauty to watch.
Watch the flow.
Yeah. And I get into those. But the rest of them I really get into after the fact, just that one and just the camera watching that synergy. Because Daniel and Sawyer are both show-offs, right? I mean, they love the camera, but some people don't.
Yeah.
And so I just set it and forget it. And if it gets knocked over, that's the cost of doing business.
Well, I guess you have to have that attitude for sure.
Well, I mean, I use 100 gigs of mobile data to pull off this, okay? And 4 cell phones.
Wow.
It takes to pull this deal off. And 2 of those are linked. So those 2 cell phones are teams.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a lot. And if you were trying to do this with high-tech equipment, like it would, the logistics would be just cumbersome. But I mean, iPhone made it cool and easy, right?
Yeah. It's just completely changed the Farrier world in that sense. Like think of how many people when you talk to your friends and they want to show you a picture, like as they scroll through, it's just horse pictures.
Yeah.
Feet.
Feet, tools, some cool tools somebody else made, something you want to buy. Yeah. I mean, and like, I haven't maximized the potential of the cell phone. I like using it for slow motion video and being able to take a lame horse and just walk it once and look through all the video instead of, and then they've made file management so easy. And then like documenting feet, because I'm not very smart. And so I've got this little system I kind of use for documenting the foot so that I can build the shoes at the shop to fit for the feet.
Oh, okay.
Instead of just, trying to go from memory or build a blank and make it fit.
Yeah.
At this point in my career, I'm not fit and I'm not tuned up. So to build a set of heart bars at the horse would just be unfair to the owner and the horse, But yeah, using the phone is cool, and the technology and what it does for us, because like farriers, we tend to be solo operators, right? Like we're not team players. It doesn't come natural. And so I could really use somebody to do my scheduling, and I would love it.
Yeah.
It's a terrible plan. Like I tried to let my wife do that, And then it got to where I'd come home and I'd be like, honey, you wanting to buy something? Like, is there something in the works? Because I'm dying. Like, I don't know if you get this, And so that didn't work out great. But I found, I wish I could remember the guy's name. I remember he worked with Pat Broadus when I went out to see Pat, but turned me onto AppToto. That is the best untapped resource that people are starting to use it, but AppToto is the deal for farriers and managing your schedule. Yes.
Okay, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, that's a whole thing all by itself. But AppToto and looking into that, it does all the things you don't want to do, talks to your clients for you, reminds them for you.
Really?
If you make a movement in your schedule, it just sends them a notice and they get to say yes or no, And most of them, it takes a little training. Most of them finally just go yes. And you don't have to have that 40-minute conversation it takes to reschedule.
Right, yeah.
So, and then it reminds me, you're supposed to be here. And I go, oh, shoot, I better leave. But yeah, AppToto is the best $40 I spend all month.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's worth looking into then.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Cool. All right. Well, would you like to do the short answer questions?
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah?
Before we do your short answers, I got a question for you.
Okay.
What do you read?
What do I read?
Yeah, what do you read?
I'm a sucker for books on human psychology.
Really?
Yeah, I love those. Now, sometimes it's hard to figure out which ones are just pop psychology and maybe it's based on studies, but how thoroughly researched they are. But just human beings in general have always been intriguing to me. So just figuring out those patterns we fall into but don't even realize it. Yeah. So yeah, stuff like that. Malcolm Gladwell, philosophy.
Mm-hmm. So that human psychology, I want to tap into that real quick.
Yeah.
Do you find that is so how does that affect your clients and your relationships with your clients?
Big time. Yeah. It's helped me just sort of realize sometimes where people are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the complaints about those narcissistic people that we work for that just seem to not care that you are a human being with, a body that breaks down over time and everything else, that just want to add that next horse or whatever. I think it's just made me more sympathetic in many ways to the other person. And even just, I don't know, it's made me, the more I learn, the more interested in people and what makes them tick.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's what I'm doing here. Like just finding out all this stuff that's going on in the background with you. And yeah. So, I mean, this world's full of characters and I want to know what they're all about.
That's pretty cool. If you were going to recommend a book that would be kind of a place to start so I just realized other people exist in the world. I don't know if you know this about me, man. But
No.
I've been flying solo this whole time.
Really?
Yeah. And now all of a sudden I look around and I was like, oh man, there's other people here. They have wants and needs and opinions and what just happened to my life,
Yeah.
Because I tend to move through the world with my horns out. And so I just kind of got turned on to a book that isn't psychology. It was about neuroplasticity in the human brain.
Yeah. Which one was
the
that?
brain that changes itself.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are so many books like that coming out as they are learning the changes. For the longest time, we all just thought you are what you are and that's it. But there's so much you can change in there. Just by another interesting one is Atomic Habits.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I say read, but often now it's an audiobook.
I'm an audiobook guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I say read.
Yeah.
And if I really want to take it in, I read it all as well.
Yes, exactly. The same thing for me. And a lot of human psychology, a lot of money's been and time has been invested in the marketing side of things. So the marketing books are very interesting as well. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now, but this I know. He's a Canadian marketer who has had a radio show forever called Under the Influence. And it was just all these strategies that different marketing firms would use. He ran one himself, just strictly, it was Pirate Radio, I think it was called. And they would do just radio advertising. And that book is very interesting, especially for those of us who have really developed the skill set side of things, but want to work on the getting yourself out there.
The relationship side.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes, he doesn't fall into that category, but there have been other books where I've read where I'm like, this is almost trickery. And I remember, like, before I started chewing, I was selling horse trailers. So I decided the only way to up my game in this is to find out what all the other salespeople are doing, what books they've written. And a lot of them were just about tricking a client into saying yes. And I hated that.
It just makes you feel gross, doesn't it?
Yeah. It didn't feel like I was earning a living in an honest way. So I couldn't do those techniques. But I think the sales thing really helped me because I was very introverted. I liked people, but I just wasn't really good at making small talk or making those first introductions and then getting into a deeper story with people. And sales just forced my hand. I had to sink or swim. And then once I got into this job, it's great. Like if a client is there, I get to learn so much about a client in that time that I'm doing their horse. We are the bartenders and hairdressers of the horse world. People overshare with us.
Oh, gee, Chris. I actually put in my my little thing on, so I do the whole new horse thing. And I typed out this whole script of crap this time just because it's fun. I mean, it's a new horse. And like the last thing, therapy cost extra. It's just like, I don't know how to take care of me, man. I don't know how to help you with that.
Sometimes you'll find out that no matter how bad your problems are, there's somebody else who, Yeah,
you're not them.
No.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. So your first 5 years, man, what was your first 5 years like of horseshoeing if you were going to put it in a nutshell?
I was apprenticing with a gentleman who was not a continuing education focused person. He would not go to any events, and he was highly respected, and I learned a lot. Actually, I learned a lot about human psychology through him. He was just one of those people who inherently knew how to work people. So I learned a lot of stuff there about like setting boundaries. He was at that point in his career where he wanted his weekends and everything else. And I'm still learning those lessons. But without his help, I had to go out and kind of find my own way in the education side of things. Because I started late. I felt like I was behind the 8 ball. I was 28 years old when I started. And one of the people I asked who owned a Farrier supply that's no longer in business, but I said, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And he tried to talk me out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you're
I
too
try to
old
talk
start.
people out of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm like a born again where I'm just like, this is the greatest thing ever. Why isn't everybody shoeing horses? And that was sort of the attitude I took, but I felt like I was behind the 8 ball, so I just wanted to suck up as much information as I could. And then I found, 5 years in, I had a fairly decent clientele by that point, but I knew there was more, and I had helpers who'd come from Heartland, and they knew so much after 8 weeks that I'd struggled and was still struggling with, right?
Yeah.
So
that's got to be humbling.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. It was scary, and I didn't want to call them apprentices because I didn't have any certification levels or anything like that. I'm not a fake it till you make it kind of person. I have to actually achieve something, and then I still don't feel like I've made it, but I'm getting there.
See, I'm a fake it till you make it, man. I'm totally making this shit up as I go.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
100%. If you get to know me very long, like you'll figure that out fast, man. I am winging it. I got no plan.
Yeah, no, that's always been a struggle. No, so those first 5 years, we all make a ton of mistakes when we're, especially working for somebody. He was kind enough to take me on as an apprentice when I didn't have any of the skills other than I knew horses and had worked with standardbreds as a kid.
Well, people undervalue that. Right?
Yeah.
Like we remember those first apprentices and all the bad things about it, but we also I've gotten a big dose at the school of what it's like to take somebody from ground zero. And I have no aptitude for that. And so I'm really pretty grateful that there was somebody out there who's willing to let me get in the truck so I could at least watch them work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I met Chris at one of the conventions, Chris Gregory, and he said, you need to find the line in the beginning of the podcast. You need to find somebody who's your body style and learn to mimic that and just focus on that for a while. So I started going down to the school, and between Chris and Cody, I'd found my people. And I also had a gentleman back home, Sean Elliott, who was kind enough to let me into his shop. He wouldn't take money. I could only give him whiskey. How many jobs can you learn? That's job. The cost of tuition is whiskey, right?
Yeah.
And he helped me immensely. We'll be doing an interview with he and his wife. His wife is a vet at some point. And yeah, just like all these people sharing. Forging still is my weak point. And those people have increased my game tenfold.
Yeah.
More. Yeah. So first 5 years was getting under a lot of horses and figuring that out. And then after that, it was like, after hearing Dusty's talk yesterday, I feel like I'm just at the start of his journey where he's like going to the next level on all of his stuff. Yeah, it's just exciting.
How many years have you been at it now?
13.
13 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, that's dang sure enough time. What leaves you feeling successful at the end of the day that just keeps you going?
I don't know if it's successful that keeps me going or it's I still need to know more.
Uh-huh.
And there is more I can do. But at the same time, I also think that there's this education gap that I want to help fulfill as well. I was listening to this podcast and they had a gentleman on who's a poet, David White. And he wrote this book and it's called Consolations, and it's just essays on specific words that you might not think could be a 4-page essay based on just this one single word. And one of them was ambition. In it, he starts talking about like the different stages of when you come into a career and like the learning and everything else. But there's this one part where he said, I wish I could remember the quote exactly, but he said basically it's along the same lines as we're all standing on the shoulders of giants. He said, your work, your knowledge, everything, all of your ambitions are going to be the compost to somebody else. And he said, you also shouldn't chagrin the people coming behind you that they have an easier path because you learned it and then you just impart it on them. Because in the end, it's the whole trade itself that benefits. Where those people coming behind, they're going to have all these mistakes that you learned, they're going to be able to avoid them, but then even surpass that. And you talk to anybody from the past who used to compete, and then they tell you about the shoes that they see people churning out now, and they're like, I don't know if I could even keep up at this point. And that has to be from all of that shared knowledge, they're getting better. And Jim Keith, I never even considered it. He said, is it peaking? Like, can you reach that point where it can't get any more finer or faster or whatever? But there's still going to be a group of us that'll try. Yeah. And so, I don't know. There's just so many aspects to this that have just held me. I was looking for that career my whole life. And then when I finally found it, it was just all encompassing.
Right. I had that same experience in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like it just, yeah. That's a pretty good place to segue into your list of questions.
There we go. Yeah. This portion of the podcast is called the Stratum Tectorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy. First one, what's your favorite book?
Do I have a favorite?
Or it can be a list.
My favorite book is the book of John in the Gospels.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And why is that?
Man, that's a lot, right? There's just so much compassion there, and so much grace. And I just feel like the book of John really breaks down what it means to love one another and live together in harmony. And then a lot of it, there's a lot of things that build out from there, without getting all theological. But if I was going to pick a book, that's the one I would pick. It's the Gospel of John.
Okay, cool. Favorite brand of nails? Now, I know some of these are going to be...
I was going to say that's rough,
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to answer that question honest.
Sure.
Okay? Like,
that's all I want.
I can be successful with any nail you throw under the foot, right? I mean, 2 flat surfaces keep shoes on the clips if you got to have them, right?
Yeah.
And so I drive the nails that are produced by the company that's supporting my lifestyle.
Right.
So like whoever's paying for this life we live and whoever's investing at the places I'm going, I drive that nail. I mean, I started driving Liberty nails because they sponsored the WCB and that's where I was going. And I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing and what I'm going. This is my way of contributing to that on something I'm consuming already.
Yeah. Right.
You know? So of course I drive Kahn Forge nails. At the school, I have to be able to drive and be successful with whatever shows up. To compete, you have to be able to drive and be successful with whatever shows up. And so, you know, of course, I'm going to say Kahn Forge, but the fact of the matter is I love this life. This life doesn't exist without sponsors.
Yes, exactly. No, I've had very much the same attitude. And I remember even Chris at a clinic when Mustad was sponsoring him. And he said, you know, they don't even ask me to plug anything, but I really like these tongs. And I had a pair of Mustad tongs and pulled them out and just started using them again. And that was years ago, and I followed the same trajectory as you. Each time I found somebody who was really supporting us, that's what I started to do. I mean, that's all that money that they put into sponsorship. It's not wasted. Like, we notice that.
Yeah, and people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, people do. It doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah. What shoe sizes do you normally have to keep the most stock of?
Well, I just recently discovered this because I'm out and I've got bar stock to cut a box of aughts when I get home. Or I've got bar stock cut to build a box of aughts when I get home.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any aught fronts.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Now, do you mostly hand make your shoes or is it a mixture?
It's a mixed bag of nuts. I went through a season of all handmades. You know, I didn't go Tom Peterson deep in that deal or anything, but especially when I was preparing for the fits. Like, you're not getting through that ASF if you don't just slug it out on a daily basis. It's not going to happen. That shoeing's a marathon.
Yes, it is.
You know? And you better do some jogging, get some cardio, some Pilates, hang out with the wine moms, whatever you got to do. Get in shape if you're going to take the fits exams. But
quote of the day: hang out with the wine moms.
Yeah,
I love that.
Man, I go to yoga classes for physical therapy, and I can't stand wine mom yoga. Like, it drives me crazy. It's like, come on, just be quiet, listen to music, do some yoga.
It's really good for you too, isn't it? I haven't been able to go, but it was making a huge difference on my body.
Yeah, it's worth doing. And like, we see in the program, the girl, I can't remember her name, that's doing the yoga for Farriers.
Right.
And like, I followed her on Facebook. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's cool. There's a need for that.
Yep. There's a gentleman back home, Dustin Willett, who's doing a lot of stuff like that for us too. He opened our convention with some stretching exercises and stuff. And yeah, it's neat that we're kind of moving beyond that, I want to say, cowboy attitude of just
call it cavalier, but you know what I mean? Like, we're Farriers. We don't take care of ourselves. No. We just consume our body.
Yeah. And then when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And what's left?
All my friends are getting replacement parts, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out on that deal. I'm going to retire now.
Yeah. Exactly. Favorite make of rasp?
Oh, man, I'm a Basoli man.
Are you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I really am. I can do like everybody else, be like, oh, I got a bad batch of this, you know? And everybody, like, now that I've been on this side of things, like, understanding the rasp challenge is much more clear.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And the production, and what a burden, right, to try to make a rasp for Farriers.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
To everybody's liking.
Yeah.
Too,
And
right?
so I'm a diehard Basoli guy because he's just a cool dude.
Okay.
And the rasps are good too.
Do you have a dream Farrier rig?
Yeah, my shop.
Yeah.
Like, if I never had to go back out again, like, that's my idea of a practice, is a really cool hot roddy kind of rig that I drive out when I have to do something on location.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and so if I could just fix my old '89 Chevy and slap a body on that thing, a tub, super basic. Like, I was trying to think of the name. Is it Kodiak? I don't keep up with the rig deals, but there's somebody makes a really cool low profile tub that goes on the back
I think
of the truck.
that is Kodiak.
And
Yeah.
it's pretty much a candle and a rock and some room for some bar stock and a drill. Like, it's bare bones.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, if I could drive my old 6 mile to the gallon 454 and haul around a really cool box on the back of it and just be like, here's my forge, here's my rock, That's my
Where
dream
we
rig,
go.
and then everything else just comes to the shop. I don't want to go out anymore.
Yeah.
I got grandpa stuff to do, man. I got to be like, I want this grandkid running around the shop getting dirty, and
Yeah.
you know, I want some of that.
No, that's a great answer. Yeah. And do you think it's doable, like to have people ship in?
I
more
think
and more?
so. I think you need a better personality than I have to pull it off very easily, but the shift is happening, right? COVID helped that. So for
Yeah.
some of my customers, it was an opportunity to get out with their horse,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Right.
and then everything's going up, right? So I raised my prices and started requiring people to come to the shop. But I'm in a serious scale down. Like, I wouldn't recommend that as a model for like I wouldn't recommend anything I know about running a farrier business to anybody. I'm the worst at it because I just kind of do what I want and let the
See how it
just
falls.
let the pieces fall where they may, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people will do it. And if you turn that into an experience,
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
then you know, because I mean, I think Leah Olson's up to that, and he's killing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that, but that's my impression.
Yeah.
Is that he's almost all haul in now.
Right.
Yeah.
I had one client, he's always thinking of a scheme and always sharing it with me. And he thought I should have a full-on tractor trailer where the horses are done inside, but there's also like a whole seating area, coffee room, everything else for the clients to just hang out and and just like you're saying, just for the experience, right?
Yeah, just build an experience. And you know what? You don't devalue your experience. You know what I mean? Because I devalued that. Like, my shop, I don't have a big fancy shop. My shop is a RV storage unit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the guy that owns it's just cool enough to let me put a shoeing shop out of that. And so my clients roll in there and we just throw the door open and go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as cool a part of the experience as anything, right? Like, I don't even have a bathroom. They got to walk to the Dollar. The Dollar General put in a bathroom for me. It was the coolest thing
You're
that happened
kidding.
in my small town. Yeah. Like, I used to have to get in a truck and drive to the gas station, and the Dollar General just put a bathroom right there in my front drive. And I'm like, great. I don't have to spend money on a shop with a bathroom.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of that. And you're giving them business too.
Oh, well, yeah. And like, it's a small town, so like, it's all symbiotic.
Right. Yeah. So what's your favorite dimension of stock to work with or
Well,
type?
Yeah. 3/8 1.
Yeah.
But I suck at it so bad. Like, I'm kind of thinking my way through a lot of things, like competing again before it gets any harder
Mm-hmm.
to start competing again. And I think that 3/8 by 1 is a gap in my skill set.
Right.
You know,
And there's so much to learn by that.
So I'm
one
going through the
cross-section.
concave thing right now on my way back to 3/8 by 1.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm a 3/8 by 1 guy if I had the skill with it.
Right. Favorite rounding hammer?
Man, one somebody cool made. You know, one of these days I'm going to be able to afford a Riley Kirkpatrick.
Yeah.
Because God knows I'm never building one of those beautiful things, man. But
You
yeah,
gotta move pretty quick to get one though.
oh yeah, I'm not that interested in hustling. Like, maybe one of these days I'll build one with him or something. But no, the favorite rounding hammer. Like, there's so many cool dudes and people like on the ground floor and the grassroots in the mud and the blood making hammers. Why would you buy a production hammer?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? Really? Why?
Yeah.
You know, there's just, so find somebody cool that's making something with their hands
Yeah.
and buy that.
Yeah. That's a really good perspective on it. Favorite pastime after work?
Hiking.
Yeah.
I'm an explorer. Any opportunity to get out of my truck and go exploring anywhere. You know, anywhere. I mean, it was hard for me not to take off when I was going on my morning walk this morning. I wanted to just take off into the city.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'm at a convention center. I'm not as fit as I once was. I mean, it's Texas, but I left my pistol at home. I'm going to stay in the light. But I love just like that first in the morning before the sun comes up and it's so dark outside and you just walking into the darkness. Like, that moment in time is my favorite part of the day, right before the sun starts to even show itself.
Yeah.
And if I can be hiking somewhere cool when that happens, I'm living it.
Cool. Yeah, I had a conservation area close to where I grew up, where my parents still are. I used to go there at night. There wouldn't be any people around, and I could walk those trails in the dark because I had done it enough times and got lost enough times in the light.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just something so cool about being there on your own, just in the midst of it all, right? And you're still exploring, and you come out to a clearing and there's a pond, and yeah, there's something about that solitude.
Yeah. And the cool places, like I have a very active imagination. I know that comes as shock. But like my favorite moment, like when that really sat home, that was the moment I was standing in Sherwood Forest.
Really?
Yeah. I had let my daughter, like, we were totally camping in the car because I thought right to roam was a thing all the way through England. I didn't realize that crap stopped at Scotland. And it's not like there's an RV park and a truck stop everywhere you can pull into, right?
Right.
And so we started parking where the dog walkers would unload. But anyway, I left my kid. So I'm in England with my 18-year-old daughter. And I left her at this dog walking park and just kind of took off walking into these trails in Sherwood Forest. And I'm just soaking it up, you know? And then all of a sudden, I look up and I'm like, holy shit, I have no idea where I'm at. I didn't bring my phone. My kid's asleep in the car. This is going to go bad. But the scenery's great. The sun will come up and I'll figure out where I'm at. Because it was obviously a groomed park, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a cool hike right there.
You didn't run into Robin Hood?
No, man, but I looked in the cave. Like, I hit all that Robin Hood-y stuff.
Did
man.
you?
I'm all about that. Robin Hood and William Wallace. I did both tours.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were actually a tour.
They're not. I created it.
Oh, okay.
I just went, all right, this is all the places I want to go that are part of the Robin Hood story. And these are all the places I want to go that are part of the William Wallace story. And next is King Arthur, man. The next time I go to the UK, I'm going to think about all the places that King Arthur stories supposedly took place and go there next.
You could be your own tour guide service.
You know,
keeping it interesting.
I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that into the channel without being lame about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's like you said, it's that lifestyle outside of shoeing, right?
And the horse foot has taken me all over the world. I know a lot of us say that, right? But like at the end of the day, we just pick poop out of horse feet. But you can do that anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere you can go. And the people, the culture's pretty much the same everywhere you go. Like, I just showed up in the UK with one or two friends, and next thing you know, I had places to stay, and I'm meeting cool people. I mean, I got to meet Jonathan Nunn. I mean, but the culture's the same as a punchline. It's all boils down to chasing a horseshoe.
Yeah, right. That's cool. What's the next thing on your bucket list?
Man, that's tricky.
Yeah, I know. That one gets a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm really focused on trying to, like, actually record some podcasts. Like, I've done enough thinking about it. I want to pull the trigger and do more recording. I've done some samples there. So that's next on my bucket list as far as professionally. And then next on my bucket list personally, I want to walk the Camino de Santiago from Paris. Now, I said that. Let me correct that. I want to do my version of a walkabout of the Camino from Paris, because I got this. My dream in that trip would be to kind of hit some of the sites of Joan of Arc on the way to Spain. And walk and hike parts of that, but I also want to jump in trucks. Okay. So to where, like, along the way, you'd be like, "Hey, pick me up here. I want to go shoeing with you for a few days," and go out and then just get dropped off somewhere else along the way. I don't intend to walk the whole thing, but I'll definitely walk the last end of that, whatever I set my goal at when the time for goal setting comes.
Cool.
But yeah, walking the Camino has been a dream of mine for a long time.
Nice. Favorite brand of keg shoe?
Well, the kegger, man. That Kahn Forge kegger's the winner. I know that, like, I have a bias in that, but we set out to make that shoe the only shoe a handy person would need on the truck. You know, so if you wanted to pare it down to nothing, everything you need's right there. So if you were going to hand make a compromise pattern for yourself that you might have to make CF shoe displays out of, because that thing's miserable. You know, like, that thing's hard.
Yeah, no kidding.
And like some of these keg shoes that were available to us, man, you got to be kind of handy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're not working with a lot.
Yeah.
And 2 or 3 missed hammer blows when you're at that level, right?
Yeah.
And you get so far into the process before you realize you made a mistake. And then you're like,
then you go,
where'd the steel go?
Yeah.
You know? And so that kegger was really designed to have all the steel you need and all the places you need, dead round heels, so that you could just forge it into whatever you want, you know? And then after the compromise pattern, I'm going to do a shameless commercial there. Like, we put a lot of work into the shapes of our fronts and hinds, you know, put a true offset in the toe, put a real medial toe on the hind shoes, and just the shape there and like the goal there while we were building it. You know, the question I went to Cody Gregory, Dusty Franklin with every time I had a sample was like, I want to build the shoes for the rack that you would hand make for yourself if you were building your own stalkers.
Inventory. Yeah.
I was like, let's make that available.
That's cool.
The norm. And now you have a transition, right? You're using a keg shoe you can buy to fill in that gap that's still taking you to the same place if you were using handmaids as far as your skill set goes.
Yeah.
And so we took all the pre-work out of it, like all the extra boxing, all the weird things that happen in shoes when you try to make them easy.
Yeah.
Get all that out, just came up with a solid shape.
Huh. That's cool. And I mean, that's obviously, it's funny when you talk to people that do handmaids, maybe not necessarily all the time in their business, but when they have to work with a keg shoe, it's those aspects that they want. And there's a whole market of people that I've spoken to that was what they were looking for.
It was there waiting, man. It was waiting, right? Like we didn't do anything great but listen to the horse, right?
Yeah.
And so like the hole was in the market. The vacuum was there is what I'm getting at. And we just filled a vacuum. That's it.
Yeah. Cool. What's your favorite inspirational quote?
Man, the low-hanging fruit on that's the man in the arena.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's just solid staple. And like, just off the top of my head, that's the one that's coming.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one that's coming. Because when it really boils down to it, it's be the person doing the doing, not sitting in the stands.
Yep. No, I had a very good friend print out a copy of that and give that to me. And yeah, it's
first time I saw it, believe it or not, was written in the top of Andrew Wells's box.
Really?
Yeah. And I read early in my parenting, I was looking for models, and I read Roosevelt's letters to his children.
Oh, cool.
And became a fan.
Yeah.
But I still hadn't heard the quote because I just didn't chase the rabbit hole, right? I read the book and went, this dude's cool. Yeah. But I saw that written in the lid of Andrew Wells's box the first time I saw it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then now, like, it's all over
there.
the place. Yeah. It's everywhere. Yeah.
Do you have a Farrier Terrier?
I did have a Farrier Terrier.
Did you?
Yeah. Finn just passed away a couple of days ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That was a hard
terrible
day.
timing on asking that, but I saw your
fine,
post.
Man. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, like me and that dog were made out of the same stuff. You know, like he was not fit for town. He might bite you, like God forbid, don't get in my truck if I'm not in it.
Yeah,
he's a whirling dervish at teeth. But he was such a big old teddy bear to anybody that knew him. You know, he's like, hey.
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, he was a good dog, and I learned a lot. And he was my first pet.
Really?
Yeah. And so like I've got a whole new understanding from my Farrier Terrier about how people feel about their pets and the emotional attachment, like that whole experience, right? Like, and I got an empathy for my clients that I didn't have before.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Huh. If you're ever stumped on a case or need backup, who do you call?
Oh man, I got a list. You know,
that doesn't surprise me.
You know, but my first phone call is always Dusty at this point. You know, like Dusty knows how I think. He understands my limitations and understands how to talk to me. Like I said, I just learned about this listening thing. And so, you know, a lot of times I was one of those guys that would call and ask a question so I could tell you what I knew.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, all right, now fill in the blanks. So Dusty already knows what I do and don't know. So
I have a few friends like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite shoe or package for a mystery lameness when the client doesn't get the diagnostics done?
Yes. That clog with the EVA foam under it.
Yeah.
Okay. Like if you got a rest package and you just need a Hail Mary for anything fetlocking down, you know, that thing is hard to mess up.
Really?
It's so idiot proof. And, you know, and it's taught me so much about just observing balance and you think a horse is balanced, but you put one of those EVA packages on a horse and you've trimmed it to where you think, and then you realize it's actually bearing when a horse is standing around completely different than you thought.
Right.
And
Okay.
so, because it just self-corrects.
Right.
Right. And eventually it breaks down like a pair of boots, but it just self-corrects. And if you learn to read those EVA foams, I mean, most mystery lamenesses are sorted out by balancing a foot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, we have definitions for balance, but sometimes you're shucking along and you just can't dial it in,
Mhm.
you know? And so that thing will tell you, if you can use it, it'll tell you where that horse is balanced and a good place to start.
It's funny, when I first started asking that question, I thought people were going to be like, well, it depends on what it is or whatever, but it's been very fruitful on finding
I'm
out
a
new
side
things.
Yeah. And when it comes to steel, now if you get out of modern materials and jump into steel, man, I'll put a side bone shoe on anything, man. The side bone shoe will fix it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that'll cure gonorrhea. I mean, it's
Jim
just,
Keith said the same thing.
yeah,
like,
when
side
in
bone
doubt,
shoe.
side bone it, man. Like, go with it.
That's amazing. Well, I'm going to have to embrace those a little more than I have. Favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
The sauna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't have said that. I would have said ibuprofen. But I had this 3-day stay in an all-inclusive resort called the ICU, and I learned a few things about what I was doing to myself. And so I took all those vitamin I's out of my diet, and
okay.
And just learning how to stretch out in the sauna. I get a version of a sauna in every morning. If I got to turn the shower on, if I got to stretch in the shower, just the being hot while you warm your muscles up and work, and your body tells you, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I do 2 saunas a day if I can get away with it.
Do you really?
I do.
Yeah. For me, it's a hot tub, but it's for the same reason.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just warming you up.
Yeah,
and-
my hot tub's broke down. You know, the YMCA, the one they put in for me at the Y. I'm in the process of remodeling that right now. And as soon as that thing's working again, it'll be once in the sauna, then the hot tub.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe we should talk to Dollar General. Maybe they'll put one outside there for you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're already on that.
think of the
trajectory.
content you would have with a hot tub outside of Dollar General. Like, we would top people at Walmart, hands down.
No kidding. You'd never be able to keep up.
Yeah.
Too much content. Favorite drink?
My wife's going to kill me because I love a Jameson and ginger ale with 2 maraschino cherries in it. That is my favorite drink.
Cool.
Yeah. I call it an Irish ginger.
Okay. Favorite genre of music?
Man, that's hard. Man, I have such eclectic taste.
I knew you were going to say that for some reason.
I'm a huge 5 Finger Death Punch fan.
Are you?
Yeah. And I don't know, like, I'm not one of those music fans where, like, I've just got to where, like, I couldn't even tell you the name of any of the songs Van Halen did. I just slap on the record and roll, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not real good with that, but I really like just kind of that layer of music that fits with 5 Finger Death Punch, you know, 5 Finger Death Punch, Disturbed, you know, kind of something a little heavier,
higher
energy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that fits. Do you work out?
Yeah. Every day.
Do you?
And that's new. So I want to say that like it's a really cool thing. I used to train hard and then I quit like everybody else. But one of the things that happens when you stay at an all-inclusive retreat is you got to take better care of yourself. So I got a lot more serious because I'd really laxed off. I mean, I got all fat and, you know, and like my body was just taking a beating and I let it drag me down with it.
Right.
And so now, like, I know what it takes. Like 12 years in the Marine Corps, I know what it takes, you know, and so I've got kind of a recommitment to that level of training. So I'm at 7 days a week right now.
Wow. Now, do you think, and I didn't ask you this before, when you bring up the Marine Corps, do you think a lot of that has really played into your routines and just basically the life of a shoer for you?
Before I was a farrier, I was a Marine, you know what I mean? And I still am, right? But like that was my big identifier. Like that's what gave me identity. Like my first identity was Marine.
Yeah.
And I drank the Kool-Aid long, hard, and deep, you know? And so absolutely, it shapes me every day. I can't separate myself from it. Like I gave my whole life to the American people when I signed that contract.
Yeah.
And so, and all the good and bad that entails, you know, it's like I know it every day that I'm a Marine. It's never outside of my mind.
Wow. Yeah. Incredible. What would you have been if not a farrier?
An anthropologist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If money was no objective, I'd be Indiana Jones.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you read Sapiens?
I haven't.
No?
No.
I think you'd like that. It's just follows like human history.
Yeah.
And I listened to another one recently all about everyone who ever lived. And it's all about basically the history of human beings from a DNA perspective.
Okay.
And the mixing and like how they've been able to follow the stuff that's come out of that, but also showing like all the sort of pop science stuff that you just think automatically, oh, well, DNA solved that problem. We know what that means. And you don't.
So are we talking like 6,000 year history of the human race?
Oh,
like 60,000. Like which brand of science are we using?
I know.
Man?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm down with it. I love that kind of stuff, really.
Yeah.
Because like just watching people. I love people watching. I like people. Like I would watch people in a zoo. You know.
Yeah.
So but yeah. So I love that kind of thing.
Yeah. And last one, if you were stuck in another COVID lockdown in a shop for a month with somebody, who would you want it to be?
Man, stuck in a shop for a month. Jim Keith.
There you go.
Yeah, hands down. Like I don't know how I haven't made it over there yet. Like I just can't make it work. But that's big on the bucket list.
Yeah, you'd be a different person, I think, after that.
Oh, how could you not be? I mean, the guy's given his whole life to the horse.
Yeah.
And being an artist and sharing and educating. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I could go on. Everybody could go on. Jim Keith's the man.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was quite an honor to be able to sit and chat with him
I
last
bet.
night. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was fun. So, yeah, that's it. And
all right. Hey, thank you.
This
was a blast.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I knew it would be, and I'm so glad you said yes. So,
oh man, I was shocked you asked me. Like your tagline does not fit me, dude. Like I'm not an industry superstar.
I think it's amazing how many people have told me that, and then after their episode airs, how many people reach out to me after that.
Yeah.
And the ones who think the least of themselves, like in that kind of aspect, that just humbleness comes, I think, with the job, and you all have something to share.
This job will humble you, you know, and like I guarantee I've done my time, you know, fighting against arrogance, but like it's the best part about this job is you can't master it. You can't.
Yeah.
Like there are some people that are celebrated as masters of the trade, and I think there are a few that rightfully so, like Jim Keith, you know, guys that master every element of it, right? From tool making to research to teaching. And I just love it for that. It is unending, and it will keep you humble if you let it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, if you think you've got it all sussed out, then you're probably not there yet.
I've been there, man. I had it sorted just like 10 short years ago.
Yeah.
Like I knew everything there was to know about horseshoeing. And, but yeah, so it's possible you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew everything in my 20s too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a reversal. You got to remember it again, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Well, cool. Thank you. It was Rabbit.
Yeah. Thank you.